This experiment was performed by Stanley Milgram in 1961. The point of this experiment was to see how far a human being would be willing to go if an authority figure ordered them to hurt someone. Milgram first thought about conducting this experiment when the Holocaust started. The fact that Hitler could order men to kill off other men without remorse grabbed his attention. He thought to himself, how could Nazi soldiers do it? Did they want to do it, or did they not have any other choice? Humans were not meant to be destructive against other humans. So what drove these thousands of men to kill these Jews? He wanted to dig deeper into the minds and thoughts of these people. To start this experiment, Milgram recruited 40 men between the ages of 20 to 50 years old using newspaper ads to run this experiment. Each man was offered $4.50. No women were allowed to partake in this experiment. 20 men who volunteered were then told they were to be the teachers of this experiment, while the other 20 were told they were the learners. The supervisor then put one teacher in one room and put one learner in another room. The teacher was told that he must read off a series of words to the learner and they would have to memorize the words. The teacher would then reread the set of words, leaving out blanks in which the learner had to provide the answer for. If the word was incorrect, then the learner would get shocked by a certain amount of volts. The learner, however, had the questions and answers as well. They were told to answer the questions incorrectly so that the teacher would have to shock them. The teacher, however, was unaware that the learner was actually not really attached to this shock machine, so he thought he was actually harming the other men. The learners would then feed cries of pain to convince the teacher they were being hurt. The shocks were given in 15-volt intervals from 15 volts all the way to 450 volts. The machine was labeled as slight shock, moderate shock, and danger, severe shock. The last two switches on the machine were simply labeled with an ominous XXX. Once the voltage got up to the point of 300 volts, the learner would then refuse to answer any more questions. He would then eventually stop making noises altogether to seem as though something bad had happened to him.
65 volt. Time. That guy's hollering in there. Continue, please. Go on. There's a lot of them here, you know, they have a heart condition there. You want me to go? Just continue, please. Sharp. Axe, needle, stick, blade. Answer, please. Wrong. I'm up to 180 volts. Please continue, teacher. Needle, you're going to get a shock. 180 volts.
I can't stand the pain. Let me out of here.
Can't stand it. I'm not going to kill that man in there. You hear him hollering there? He's
They said before, the shocks may be painful, but they're not dangerous.
They're hollering. He can't stand it. What if something happens to him?
The experiment requires that you continue, teacher.
Yeah, but I'm not going to get that man sick in there. I mean, he's hollering in there. You know what I mean?
Whether the learner likes it or not, we must go on until he's learned all the word
I
pairs.
refuse to take the responsibility of getting hurt in there. I'm not. I mean, he's in there hollering.
It's absolutely essential that you continue, teacher.
There's too many left here, and I mean, geez, he gets wrong here. There's too many of them left. I mean, who's going to take the responsibility if anything happens to that gentleman?
I'm responsible for anything that happens here. Continue, please.
All right, next one, slow. Wrong. Answer is neck. 300 volts.
I absolutely refuse to answer anymore. Get me out of here. You can't hold me here. Get me out. Get me out of here.
Continue. The next word is green, please.
Green, grass, hat, ink, apple. Okay, well, you won't answer.
As you can see, once the cries from the learner have gotten to a certain point of discomfort, the teacher begins to question whether or not that he should continue with the experiment. The authority figure in the room would continue to tell the teacher that he must proceed with the experiment. The authority would try to comfort the teacher by telling him certain things to keep him going. As you heard in the video, some of the responses were, "The experiment requires that you must continue." "It is essential to the results of the experiment that you must continue." "The shocks may be painful but are not dangerous." And that the authority will take full responsibility for any injuries that happen to them. As you can see by this chart, 65% of the teachers went all the way to the 450 voltage shock. One man even asked if there were more switches so that he could keep going. Milgram came to some conclusions that the reason these people kept going was because they trusted the supervisor running the experiment. The fact that the experiment was sponsored and took place at Yale, a well-rounded academic college, the teachers believed that the experiment must be safe and that the experimenters knew what they were doing. Milgram also concluded the disturbing fact that the human race cannot be counted on to insulate man from brutality and inhumane treatment, with the pressure of an authority. Men who went all the way to the 450 volts were called to be sadistic and foolish of their surroundings. Milgram's experiment has become a classic to psychology, demonstrating the dangers of obedience. Many psychologists now argue that obedience is heavily influenced on both external and internal factors, such as personal beliefs and overall temperament. In other words, people can take on animal-like behaviors and lose all morals when ordered to do something by a stronger power.